A common way to evaluate the allowance for doubtful accounts is to do an aging analysis. How long has it been outstanding? So we're going to use ChatGPT to help us do that. So to do so, let's go ahead and start and create a new chat, or we can just type in start a new chat. And then we're going to bring in the data. So I'm going to just go ahead and drag over that data here and enter that information. Here we've got the names of various customers, how much they owe, and various due dates. I'm going to ask it to go ahead and display a data dictionary so I can look and see what it thinks the data is. And that will go down and define what each of the columns are and what it interprets it to be, because I did not provide it with a data dictionary. And I haven't really told them this is accounts receivable or anything else. I just said, hey, here is one word or two words for each column, and now help me interpret and figure out what it is. And so let's see what that comes up with, and we can check it and make sure what it thinks we're doing is what it is actually doing. And this data dictionary looks good, and so I'm able to proceed. And what we're going to do is calculate the days outstanding. So there's a due date, and then it's the end of the year, and we're going to go ahead and calculate the days outstanding. Now, this is going to be the name of the variable, and so I want to make sure it's descriptive enough in order to provide that. Okay, so here's the days outstanding, and I can kind of look one by one. So from December 2nd until December 31st, there's 29 days, and you can see the various ones included there. So it looks like it's doing what I want it to do, and it's also kind of leading and saying, hey, I know what you want. So let's go ahead and define it. Let's create a histogram. As you recall, histograms equals counts. So this is going to count how many of the receivables are in each of these different buckets. And so let's go ahead and create a histogram and see how many are in the 0 to 30, how many are in 31 to 60. I might want to do this differently as a bar chart and have the total dollar amount, which is a little bit of a different question, not just how many are there, but what's the total balance to see how much I'm vulnerable for. And so we'll do that a little bit later as we go. And we're just starting to collect some information, and here we want to kind of know how many are in each bin. So here's how many. This note, it says number of invoices and days outstanding, and so we can see kind of what that looks like, how many are in each grouping is provided there. Alright, so the next step we're going to do is, hey, let's get the total invoice amounts by customer. And so we can ask it to compute that. We can also output this, but this will give us an idea of who owes what, at least in total. And so we can look and see what this might look like. And so we can see 4M and A&M copiers and others, the total amount owing, and kind of the beginning and the end. There's 73 customers and the sum of all invoices by that customer. The next thing we're going to do is now ask for a specific company. How much is each invoice and the respective due dates for a company called Putnam. And so for Putnam, we're specifically getting, how many, what the specific information about them, trying to see how long it's been outstanding and what they look like. And so here's Putnam's, and you can see by date, how long they've been outstanding and what it looks like. So 7 of them, and we can do some more analysis, but this just allows us to isolate what Putnam has done. The next thing we're going to do is, rather than doing a histogram with counts, we're going to calculate the total invoice amount, so invoice amounts in total for each bucket, and so we can kind of see how vulnerable we are. So let's just kind of go up here and take a look. Here was the total here, at least in counting invoices. Now we're going to come down to the bottom and see if it will help us calculate how many is in each bin. But instead of saying how many invoices, it's going to give us the total invoice amount. So this is kind of by bucket and provided there, and that tells us how much is in each grouping. We may want to say, hey, we want not just the figures, but we may want to see it visually. And so let's see a bar chart of days outstanding with the total amounts as just computed. So this is the total amount we computed, and now it's going to provide that as a bar chart, and so we're able to see that. So we're able to see what that looks like in total and see if that's different, and so that's the total amount. So rather than counts, it's going to tell us the total invoice amount. Okay, so it's provided that, and now we're going to go ahead and ask it to output that histogram of invoices outstanding. This probably should be changed, and instead of a histogram, should be a bar chart of total invoices outstanding by days outstanding. And so that would be a better descriptor here. So you may want to change that and rename that. So go ahead and rerun this prompt and use that. The next thing we want to do is just display the prompt provided. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and display that and see what that looks like, and then see if we need to change it up somehow. I like saving the prompts so I can see what I ran. And for example, if I saw this one and I said, hey, this bar chart is not actually showing a histogram. Now I could have a histogram which is accounts of invoices outstanding, but I want to be real clear on what's being provided. So that completes this lab.